Today's video is all about a really useful website that will enable you to find out information on your local area and decide if that is the right place for you to invest in for your next HMO. This website is called streetcheck.co.uk and it tells you lots of information about a local area, such as crime statistics, population statistics, demographics. Now, if you're looking to invest in an HMO, it's really helpful to understand this, because what you want to be looking for is an area that is not too expensive to invest in, that's not too high quality to invest in, and where the demographics give you an idea that this would be a really good rental location. So this is the front page of streetcheck.co.uk, and I'm going to put in a postcode for a property that we own. So the postcode is for a property in Crewe, so I'm going to search on that particular postcode, and Gainsborough Road, Crewe comes up. And I have a couple of HMOs on this particular street. So the first page that you'll see in Streetcheck gives you a summary of the area. It tells you the local authority that postcode is in, and it tells you a little bit more about the area, some of the nearby locations and some of the demographic information. You'll see along the top you have various tabs. If I click on housing, this is an interesting one because it tells me the kind of properties that are in the area. Now here it says that we have found 81 property sales in Gainsborough Road since the beginning of 1995. So it's going back quite a long way, 25 years in fact, to show exactly how many sales have been made. And I can click on this button here that will tell me what the house sale prices were. And presumably they will get this information from the land registry. But if I go back to the housing tab, what it tells me is how many houses there are in the area and of what type. And you'll see here from the pie chart on the right hand side that the majority of those properties are terraced properties. You can see there are slightly fewer of some of the other types of property, detached semis, commercials, flats. The majority are terraced properties. By the way, those make excellent HMOs. If I scroll down, you'll see the housing tenure. And this is a very interesting chart as well because it divides up the number of people that are guesstimated to be in that area and what their tenure is. So do they own the property? Do they own it outright, or are they renting? And you can see here from the green section on the pie chart, the green piece of pie, that there's about a third of people in this area who are renting. That's really good because what that means is there's already a culture of people renting property in the area. So those people who own their houses or are living there because they don't have a mortgage, they're not going to necessarily reject or resist new property that's going to be rented out. Sometimes you can find that in an area where it's very, very residential and you bring in a new HMO or a new rental property, that people kind of resist it, or if you have to get planning permission, they'll write a letter of objection. If already, though, there are people living in the area who are already renting their houses, it's much less likely that the other residents will complain because they're already used to having quite a few people living with them and around them in their street who are renting their property. And then as you scroll down even further, it tells you how many people are living in each of those houses, those households. And you can see here that the majority, what we could call the median, the kind of average, is one. One person households are the most common in this particular location. In fact, if we see there, the dark blue shade on the pie graph at the bottom shows that 27 out of 108 people are individual households. Then 22 people are couples, and then so on and so forth down the list. So it's very common for an individual in this location to be renting within a household. This is really helpful for you. As an HMO landlord, you need to know, is it fairly common in this particular location for people to want to rent on their own? Or are these houses, is this particular area more a family rental area? Obviously, in this case, it isn't. In this case, we've got a good mixture of different types of housing occupancy. But being an individual renting a room or renting a house on your own in a single person household is obviously a very common pattern in this particular location. Let's click now onto the People tab. So on the People tab, this tells us the social grade, the kind of demographic grade of the people who are living in the area, in the location. So this comes from an algorithm that was created by the Market Research Society, and these figures show the household rather than the individual. So these are, again, per household figures. Now, you might know that we kind of grade different people's social status or social grades in the UK from A down to D, and we also give them a number. So the AB class is the higher and intermediate managerial, administrative or professional position. And looking at the pie chart, this is the dark blue colour. Now you can see there's 14 out of 83 households that are represented by that particular demographic grade. But the most common one is the C2, the skilled manual workers one, which is this dark green shaded area. That's great for HMOs because generally these are the people who will be on slightly lower salaries. They'll have less money possibly to buy their own property. They're more likely to want to rent property. And again, this reflects what we saw in the first tab about housing, that more of these people will be individuals renting on their own and they're in skilled manual labour. Interestingly, in this area, it's more or less half and half. In terms of gender, we have about 50% male to female, slightly more females than males, but very, very, very similar to a 50-50 split. And as we scroll down further, we can see that the average age in the area is 30 to 44. So a very clear indication here that we're looking at somebody who's male or female between 30 and 44 years of age. They're living in a single household, and a third of the people in this area are renting their own accommodation. Now we carry on scrolling down, relationship status. Now, having found out what we've already discovered from this website, I think you could probably guess what the relationship status would be of these people who are living here. And as we can see, single, which is the dark blue pie chart here, represents 82 out of 228 households who were asked this question. 82 out of that population were single. 105 were married, so there are more people in this area who are married than are single, but there's quite a few people, well, actually, no, it's not too much. 16 of those 228 people are divorced, some are separated, and some are widowed. So if you look at the overall chart, the dark blue right through to the dark green, which we could say are, if you like, individual households, again, we can see that there are more people living individually on their own than there are people who are married or possibly in a family. Now, Streetcheck is brilliant because it doesn't just tell you about the demographics or the rental population. It also tells you about people's health. It tells you about their education and qualifications, and all of that is on the People tab of the website. Now, the next thing that I want to look at is employment. What is employment like for these people who are living in the area? So if we click on the Employment tab, you can see economic activity. And looking at this chart, we're looking at a total of 209 people, or 209 family members. So this comes from the 2011 census. So it's, we're 9 years behind. We're due a new census soon. But this will tell you what it was like 9 years ago. And you can make some, you can draw your own conclusions about whether things have changed or not since then. But you'll see here 50%, roughly 50% of people are in full-time employment. And then you can see the categories of all the other people beneath it. One of the interesting factors is unemployment here. Only 7 people out of 209, so that's about 3.5%, are unemployed. That, of course, will be probably altering over the next few weeks with COVID. Nevertheless, what we see here is a steady culture of employment in this area. Again, we can scroll down the page and it will tell you how those people are employed. So that gives me satisfaction to think that actually a lot of people in this area are employed, they are working, and it looks like they're in fairly steady, manual jobs. Now, the next, if you like, question that comes to mind about investing in this area, should I invest in an HMO in this area, is crime. So I want to look at the latest crime figures for this particular ward. So let's have a look to see what's been going on with crime in this area. So this is bang up to date. Crimes committed near Gainsborough Road in August 2020. And the biggest crime is this grey part of the graph here, which is violence or sexual crime. And in fact, I can even look at the map if I scroll down, and it will tell me exactly what kind of crimes were committed in this area. So I can look at here and see there are 3 crimes: violence and sexual offence, public order. Let's hope it's not the same person, or let's hope it is the same person. The police have caught that person. And I can click into each of these little indicators on the map, these little pins that tell me what the behaviour or the criminal behaviour was that caused it to be categorised as a crime. Shoplifting on or near Gainsborough Road. So we've got a shoplifter, we've got somebody who's violent, and we have somebody who is being very antisocial. Violence and sexual offences. Now, what does this mean? Well, it means that you're able to see, you can zoom out as well, you can see how this area looks in terms of its crime statistics. And what you can also see is the comparison for Gainsborough Road in its area. So I can find out more here. And it will tell me the kind of crimes that are going on in my area, and I can compare it side by side to a different area. Again, the website tells you a little bit more detail about how you can do this. So it will help me to understand, if I look on the data sources, it will help me to understand this area in the context of wider demographics and crime information. So I'm just going to flick back again to the crime stats. I can also look at previous months, and I can also look at that in the pie chart. There's quite a lot of detail here on the crimes, and it's quite an interesting picture. It shows you exactly where the crimes were committed, and it shows you what kind of crimes they were. So again, you can delve very, very deep into streetcheck.co.uk if you're really interested to find out what's going on in terms of criminal behaviour and what kind of criminal behaviour happens. On the Nearby tab, you can see what services are in your locality, and that just might be very useful when you're putting together folders of information for your tenants. You might want to go on streetcheck.co.uk just to find out what services are local that you can then share with your tenants. And there's even a tab to show what kind of broadband you can get in the area. So if you're not sure how to find the best broadband, it will tell you who the best suppliers are and what their megabits per second provision is. So streetcheck.co.uk is a really helpful website when you're looking at an area, when you're not particularly familiar with it, when you're maybe starting to do your research and you want to find out more about whether this could make an ideal location for starting up or continuing or growing your HMO portfolio. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel so that you can find out more about investing in HMOs and building your business so it's hands-free and it brings you in income each and every month. I look forward to speaking to you very soon. Bye for now.